Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and Jon Chai.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, Coach Brad Wilson. And today is Tuesday, which means it's Tactical Tuesday. I'm joined by my co-host, Jon. How are we doing, sir?
Doing pretty good. Got some multi-way hands for today's episode of Tactical Tuesday. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Fun multi-way action. I think multi-way is one of the final frontiers of just poker in general, and makes live poker, pretty interesting when you have like 4 to 6 way flops in situations routinely. It's and it's not a thing that like solvers can really look at yet to the best of my knowledge. So multi-way, always fun to break down some hands.
Yeah, see if we can make some progress on.
Yeah, let's progress into the final frontier. I doubt we will, but maybe.
Hey, inch by inch.
Inch by inch, right? You eat an elephant one bite at a time.
All right.
Who eats elephants, by the way? Where did that expression come from? Like,
I don't know anybody that eats elephant. I'm sure there's got to be some. It's got to happen somewhere though.
Yeah, and but bite by bite. I mean, what do they do? What do they do with the elephant in the meantime? Like, I don't understand the expression. All right, let's go. So
under the gun reg,
yeah. UTG reg opens to $20. Middle position calls, makes sense, and the actions on you. You have the ace tray of clubs in the big blind. You're playing about 100 big blinds deep. Everybody's about 100 big blinds deep, so you go ahead and complete the action. Any thoughts of squeezing here?
I think I'd be more likely to squeeze this type of hand if under the gun was a reg and he had just opened, everybody else folded around to me, and I was in the big blind as the only other player left to act. I think once the fish calls the under the gun open, though, there's probably a lot more value in just calling with the ace three of clubs and making sure that you get to play a pot with the fish in middle position. I think that ends up outweighing the value of having a 3-bet bluff pre-flop.
Okie dokie. So you called, and the flop is 5-6-9 with the 6 of clubs. It's not a super appealing flop. I'm assuming that it checks through, and it does. So 5-6-9, 1 club. Let me guess, a club on the turn. The king of clubs. $65 in the pot. So now you have the nut flush draw on the turn. I guess this is really the first major decision point.
Yeah. I guess I'll just talk briefly about what I think the regs check on 9-6-5 rainbow means versus 2 players. I think it means absolutely nothing. I think the reg is very, assuming he's a decent reg, he's probably checking close to range on this board. Maybe he bets like only 7-8 or sets or something like that. But I would expect him to check all his overpairs, all his 1-pair hands basically. So yeah, I don't think he's necessarily extremely capped. Like maybe he doesn't have like the top end of value on this board, but like if he showed up here with a set of kings or aces or something like that, I would be completely unsurprised.
Yeah. With that said, what's your plan here?
So yeah, this is like the first decision point. I think the decision here is whether to just start bluffing right now myself, bet the turn, or the other option I was considering was checking, hoping that the reg or the fish stabs an overcard that, at least for the reg, looks like a good card for the range frequently, and then I can get a check raise in and just kind of go from there.
Yeah. So I think I'm a fan of check raising instead of just leading on the king. I think while the reg maybe checking range, I think the rack who called could, likely cap themselves. They probably don't have straights. They probably don't have sets. They probably have like only one pair type hands, and just no over pairs. Just generally no top pairs on the flop. Like so, no ace 9 or 9-10 or 8-9. Those tend to get bet. So, yeah, I would imagine that the fish just has a much weaker range than the reg.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like you checked, and now the reg bets, and the middle position player calls. So the board is king 5-6-9 with the king 6 of clubs. John has ace tray of clubs. The reg bets a third. I assume you're raising here. I can't imagine you not raising.
I do check raise.
Yeah. And sizing, they bet 20, they're 65. Probably something big, 170.
Yeah.
180.
I don't remember the size that I picked, but okay.
140 to 84. Yeah. All right. And the reg folds, which is quite nice. Kind of gives you a clear path to bombing river.
Yeah, I think it's really nice because of all the things you said about what it means when the fish checks the flop. Like they're just so capped here. They never have two pair unless it's like king 5 or king 6 maybe.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm so happy about getting to the river versus with just the fish.
Yeah, and I think honestly king 5 and king 6 probably just raise the third.
Oh yeah. That's a good point too.
So I would think like the best hand they have is probably like king queen.
Yeah. Okay.
And they decide to call, and you hit a good card, the 10 of clubs, which gives you the nuts. There's 374 in the pot. You've got 890, so SPR's almost 3. Yeah, 2.7-ish. So now you have a pretty interesting decision here on the flush completer. You're going to check raise all in, going to rip, going to bet 3/4. What's a...
I don't know what to do. I guess the good starting point is all the things we said about the fish's range once he checks the flop and calls the turn. So he has a lot of like one pair king X type hands, probably has some flushes himself. And I don't know, like 6-7 maybe, like a hand like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily bet the flop, but has some equity even versus the check raise.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to max value from that range? The bluff catcher is probably just call if I bet. Maybe depending on sizing, we can even get called by like that 6-7 range with like a really small bet. If we jam, nicest thing is we get called by the flushes, but maybe the flushes just raise over a normal size bet anyways. And then if we check, we get some value from bluffs that I don't really know exist. Maybe like, I don't know. I mean, even the gutters, even the turn gutters now have a pair.
It's hard for them to have too many bluffs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I think like villain could have king 10. Maybe they have 9-10. They also have flushes. I think like the 90% size, I would just take that off the table kind of straight away.
Okay.
And just think about either small or all. And probably just lean towards all, targeting 2 pair and flushes just to make sure that all the money goes in.
I don't know. Maybe officials just call 2.7x on the river with king queen. Like
they might. I mean, who knows? So yeah, I think better safe than sorry, and I would just stick all the money in and hope for the best.
That's what I do.
Well, there you go. And you hoped.
Ooh.
Hope granted. Villain does call. How quickly did they call?
Really fast.
Oh, so they got a flush.
That is an incredible run out given our hands.
Yeah. The deuce 4 of clubs. They got the 4 high flush. So yeah, well done. Way to max value. Again, I think if you bet like 70 or 90, I don't think the 4 high flush raises.
I see.
So yeah, I think it's a well played hand, and I guess coming up after the break, what does the listener have to look forward to?
More multi-way. This time I'm the one that gets jammed on.
Nice. Stick around after the break.
Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.
All right, welcome back from the break to this Multiway episode of Tactical Tuesday. So, John, you can set us up in the second hand.
Okay, so this hand goes even more multi-way than the first one. MP opens, looks like a reg. The cutoff looks like a fish, calls. And the small blind, who is kind of the main villain in this hand, I had him tagged as a fish at this point. He was playing 31-20 over 75 hands. And not that flatting the small blind here is like egregious by any means. Once the fish flats the cutoff, I think it's completely reasonable to have a flatting range in the small blind. But, you know, this is like, it's not really helping his case, I guess.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's just it seems very natural to have a flatting range here from the small blind. Yep. So I wouldn't really read too much into it. I think that
the 31-20 is bigger deal.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 75 hands. Like, I know I've ran probably worse than that over 75 hands, like just V-pipping a ton. Yeah. Especially when you're to the left of a fish, like you just naturally, your V-pip just is going to go up. Your PFR is going to go up. You're going to play more hands. You're going to get more involved. So I think, you know, I have no idea what to profile them.
That's a good explanation for why his stats might be a little fishy looking.
Yeah, could be. So you decide to flat the 10-6 of spades. To recap, MP opens, the cutoff flats, small blind flats, and John flats. So party of 4 taking a flop. There's $90 in the pot, and everybody's got around $1,000 behind. Flop is ace-7-4 with the ace-4 of spades. Small blind checks, John checks. This is pretty natural check, not really worthy of discussion. And MP checks and cutoff checks. So party of 4 checks around, and John makes a flush on the turn. So ace-7-4, turn is the 9 of spades, so 3 spades, 90 in the pot, and now the action is on you.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, obviously we make a very strong hand. We make a flush on the turn, but we're 4 ways, and I don't know like how strongly I should value a 10-eye flush when we're 4 ways. It's wouldn't be shocking to see, like, especially someone like the reg have better flushes in their range. Again, like similar to the previous hand, wouldn't be shocked to see the pre-flop opener in middle position just checking range on the swap. Maybe they you know, if they do have bluff stabs, maybe it's like the nut flush draw or something like that. So yeah, I wasn't exactly sure like how to value a 10-eye flush 4 ways, but I just figured it was a pretty good hand and decided to just bet big and hope people bluff catch. I mean, like we said, the reg is probably checking range, so they probably have plenty of ace-x hands that are going to call a bet on the turn.
Mm-hmm. So you just went properly polarized and bet pot?
I don't know if this is good. I mean, like one thing that I'm thinking about now, just looking at this, is like, if I get raised, like how you know, how do I feel? Probably pretty terrible. Like,
pretty miserable.
Yeah, and I'm just sort of opening up doors for me to feel terrible.
Yeah, it's interesting on this flush completing turn. Like, when you have equity, you've got a lot, and when you don't have equity, you've got none. When they have a higher flush, you're like drawing dead. Yeah. But whatever. I think it's hard for villains to have like the king queen with the king of spades and just say, well, screw it, like let's go and try to make somebody fold a flush. I think in general they're probably just gonna fold.
Keep that thought in your back pocket.
So you bet pot 86 in that what I assume is 86 because the rate gets taken out.
Yep.
And everybody folds to the small blind. The villain in question, the river pairs the 7. They check, and now let's hear your thoughts.
I did not love this river. I mean, obviously, still our hand is still very, very good. Probably still like a comfortable value bet. It's just that when the board pairs on the river, I think I'm going to have. I don't know. I mean, like I could pot the turn with like a set or something like that. I think. So maybe I still do have some boats, but maybe not as many as the small blind when he check calls. Like small blind probably could easily have like every 2 pair, except for aces, I'm assuming. And it's just kind of, like we said on the previous street about getting raised. If I did get raised with a 10-eye flush leading the turn, it'd be pretty gross. If I bet here, get check raised or check jammed on or something, that feels pretty miserable too. So I thought I had 2 options for sizing. One was like small bet, win the minimum versus their bluff catchers, but maybe induce something from a bluff catcher that now, check jams gets induced, or big bet and then maybe fold more comfortably versus the check jam, thinking that like I don't induce as often and, try to get called, make more money versus their bluff catchers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the third door is not to bet at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, and I think that door shouldn't be looked past really at all. I think it should be highly considered here when the 7 pairs. I think they have boats. I think we have way fewer boats.
Yeah.
I think that like opening the door to disaster is quite a risk. And you've got the 10 high flush, like they can have 8-5 of clubs, 5-6 of clubs. Spades, I mean. Yeah. Whatever, the flush. the flush cards. 7-8 of spades, 6-7 of spades, 5-7 of spades, 5-6 of spades, 8-5 of spades, but that's really it. I would be quite hesitant to bet the river here, to be honest.
Okay, so
I probably don't bet the river.
The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that I thought this guy was not like, I thought he might be a fish or was very likely a fish.
Yeah, but that still gives them full houses. I mean,
yeah, I just thought that like if I did bet the river and get raised, like especially if I bet big, like I just, I wouldn't expect the fish to like turn stuff into bluffs, and so I would, I thought like I could bet big and feel pretty good about folding versus this player type.
Yeah, well, let's see how it works out. You bet big, 200.
Get what I deserve.
This is exactly what you deserve. I'm very hesitant to open the action here when they've got a bunch of boats and we've got way fewer boats. And my assumption is that you're just going to fold.
Yeah.
Anything?
No, I was like, oh, this guy's a fish. Like, I'm going to bet big if he raises. I'm just going to assume he has a better hand than mine, and you wouldn't raise the big size to try to get me to fold a flush. But
yeah, well, you fold, and the villain shows you the ace-4 of clubs.
Ooh,
so
very
appropriate.
The
board for recap for the podcast listener, ace-7-4. The turn was a 9 and the river was a 7. So they have a blocker, ace and 4 blocker. So, they block boats like a7. They block pocket 4s. And yeah, it is a very appropriate check raise. It's quite well done by them and good heads up awareness that, yeah, you just have flushes and the board paired. And so they stuck it to you, which is exactly what you deserve.
Definitely underestimated this guy in game.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal to see these hands afterwards when you're like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that fold was good. You look it up and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. Did you like how much did you consider checking back on the river versus
lot.
betting?
It was like, I mean, like, I don't know how much I considered checking back as much as I considered like small betting to induce. So like all the reasons you said for checking back.
Well, why would you? What are you inducing against?
Like these types of hands.
I don't think you need to induce. It appears as if it didn't matter what you did. This money's going in with this type of hand. I mean, like 5-6, 6-8, 8-10.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, those types of hands.
Like the non-paired hands would be the ones that you're like inducing against, I would imagine.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like versus the small size, the bluff catcher is just getting such a good price that like.
I also find it so unlikely that they just call pot with like 8-10, 5-6, 6-8, like on the turn.
What about just like ace jack?
I mean, maybe, but ace jack has to call like 2/3 on the river too. Like, which I find, unlikely. But maybe ace jack calls or ace 9 or something. But yeah, I just think like the risk of your equity getting denied, the risk of this pain would just be too high, and I would just check behind the river. You bet pot 4 ways. Like that's not like that's not a bet where you're just like messing around.
And I think like that it just makes my full house combos on the river. It just reduces it so much more, right? Like,
sure.
I'm probably not doing that with 2 pair on a flush completing turn. Like I'm probably not doing that with like 9-7 or ace 4.
Yeah, it's like a higher category of hand is now available, and you're like, okay, well, I potted the turn, so I'm going to pot the river, and so you just don't have that hand.
On the river. Let's give me some credit.
Whatever. You bet 200. I mean, 200 into 262, so it's like it's big.
Yeah.
Well, I guess greed isn't always good.
Yeah.
Who knew that movies could get things wrong? I guess you learn.
Oh, yeah. That's why I played this hand so poorly. I watched too many movies when I was a kid.
Yeah. Too many movies. Well, I guess that's all I have to say about these multi-way spots here on Tactical Tuesday. I know the listeners might be wondering. My energy levels feel quite low today. We didn't even talk during the intro, but I've gone on like multiple walks. I've been to the gym for like an hour. I think I just need to go take a nap.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Guess we could have recorded this after your nap. But still, I think this episode was pretty good. Multi-way spots are always fun. I mean, kind of not knowing exactly what the answer is every time is...
Just be grateful that I didn't have more energy to lambaste you more about betting the river.
Yeah, but you would have also talked about how good the ace-3 hand was.
That's true.
Longer.
That's true. Like 2 seconds longer. We would have... The lambasting would have...
This was way worse than the ace-3 hand was good.
What can you do? One good, one bad. Just another standard episode of Tactical Tuesday.
Yep.
And I got nothing left to add.
See y'all next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter. Join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter @CPG Podcast.